Welcome to the Connector Podcast. Hi, I'm Jim Taugher, CEO and Executive Creative Director of CI Design, a brand and marketing firm based in Milwaukee. I'm excited to bring you this podcast series. I'll kick it off today with a personal story and hope to see you back as I invite guests and uncover a number of topics related to one key word, connections. First, think of the brand connection, how people connect with the purpose of a company. I've spent my career focused on various ways for companies to connect with audiences, including their own employees, to help them know the reason why they should accept the invitation to be connected with that brand. Second, the connection inherent in marketing, the practice of strategic thinking and planning to help people get curious and connect with those brands. And third, I'm as excited to share with you in this series the connections and observations I have made and I'm still making on a relational level by leading creative teams and building relationships with clients and peers. And in this, the personal discoveries that I've made about myself on this journey. So let me take you way back to my childhood. I was drawing constantly. I'd enter contests. In high school, I was voted most likely to become an artist. So yeah, I enjoyed being creative. Funny though, I had no plan to be an artist for my career. In fact, when people said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" I told them a dentist. But then in my junior year of high school, at a career fair, one young man wearing a jacket and tie brought in his portfolio. I didn't know what a portfolio was, but as he opened up this huge leather folder of work, I saw a few music-related projects that he had done, and that caught my attention. At the time, I worked at a record store, and I was doing band logos and posters for a few local bands as a way to be connected to music, one of my other loves. But this guy was doing the same work and getting paid for it. So I set off on my path for education that led me to a school across the country, and then an internship, and a second internship, and my first job. There, I learned as I watched my bosses shape concepts, but also relationships with our clients. I desired a seat at the table with those conversations and the connections being made with clients and prospects and brands. And so I did this with my own company. It's natural and it's thrilling. As CI Design has grown from 5 to 20 to now nearly 40 people, connecting as a leader with and for our own people is a main focus. It can be a challenge, and I remember distinctly when I realized that it was going to take new intention and energy to connect and lead within. During and right after the economic crisis of '08, we had to work really hard to bring business in the door. Finding work for us to do and keep teams busy was the currency of our existence, and I was the sole salesperson at the time. My method of turning project into reality was to bring these hard-fought opportunities back to our office and call an initial ideation meeting with the team members that would be involved in the project. And I had one of these opportunities that had taken some time to land, a potential campaign launch for a company's new product. So with my excitement, I brought this opportunity back to the office. I remember filling the room with 8 or so people and kicked off the meeting standing in front of the dry erase board and really starting in wide and general, saying, here's the product. It's in the water filtration category. It helps the home in these ways. I defined the audience and a few of the advantages I had learned that would set it apart. And as I talked, I would glance out over the room and gauge people's interest and attention. And while I'd say it was okay, I wanted them to be as excited and passionate as I was. I was looking to connect with them so they could see themselves in the project and the work that they would ultimately get to do. So I'd talk a little faster with a little more enthusiasm to try to lead the excitement. But 10 minutes into my setup, I found people looking at their notepads and even staring off a little bit, and I couldn't tell if I was connecting. I remember in this particular instance, one art director raised their hand and offered some ideas, and I thought, good, here's a breakthrough. At least one of the 8 is engaged. He popped up and went to the dry erase board and shared some thoughts. And I remember standing back, enjoying his ideas, and a couple more people looked up at the new voice in the room. But as he sat down, people rather retreated to their original poses. Now I'm really distracted. wondering what's going on in the minds of the others. But I had to keep on task, finish up what I had started here. At about the 45-minute mark, I wrapped things up and said to my project manager, okay, do you think you have what you'd need to be able to create a proposal? And she nodded yes and was super eager to help, but indicated she'd need help from the designers, writers, programmers in this room to estimate their time. And this is where it got interesting. Each generally looked confused. They did not see their part in the project. With the greatest intentions of connecting them to the opportunity, something was missed. I remember we were all standing at this point, a few people almost to the door, and I asked them to pause and sort of desperately assign different parts to them. Would you create the mood board? To another, I said, can you imagine what the microsite and an infographic would look like? One asked me, what should I do? Now, at this point, I had a long track record of making clients happy and bringing teams together, but now the stakes were higher, and as we were trying to grow again, I literally felt like a failure in the art of communication and expectations with my own people. Why was this such a struggle? I've been trying to improve formulas for meetings and processes, but something wasn't working here. Well, fast forward a couple of years later, and I came to a personal crisis in my life. Perhaps it was a lot of years of the wear and tear, wearing multiple hats, being many things to many people. But through what I'd call an intervention, a friend came to my home and said, Jim, I'm noticing the different aspects of your life are ganging up on you. Well, what are we going to do about that? And I said, I'm yours. What do you want to do? He described a 24-hour session where we'd go hole up and do some unpacking of what got me to where I was at. It involved some personality assessment tools that were the foundation of his leadership consulting. I tested a certain way and I read the description of my personality and I didn't really resonate with it. I joked, I was half serious though, and I said, if this is really me, I'm out of here. But he helped me unpack and explained what we're trying to learn is what you're wired for, what you are best at naturally, and conversely, what things you have learned in your life, skills that you have nurtured that don't come from the natural wiring. As we unpacked all this, I realized the crisis I was in was because of an imbalance where I was spending far more time in my nurtured activities than my natural wirings. The ideal state we ought to be operating in, he described, was 70% in your natural given abilities compared to 30% in what you've nurtured. The problem is I had become unbalanced to the point of being tipped 90-10 in the opposite direction. That I was operating in all these learned skills over far more than what I naturally excel at and frankly derive life from. And you can imagine the implications were damaging. I was concerned for myself and those around me if this would continue. So this was the beginning of a revelation that would have me really get to know myself in a new way. As I dug deeper, I saw what it was like to be on the other side of me in relationships, and I wanted to improve. Can you imagine being married to somebody who has an idea a minute and is excited about all of them? That had some serious implications for my wife, Andrea, who is wired more as a protector versus this creative connector, and felt responsible to keep up with making all my ideas for family activities happen. Or was it easier for her to shoot the ideas down instead of entertain them? This was sort of the pattern we are in. But now we had a method for working through our natural wirings more objectively instead of just being frustrated with each other. Of course, Connector Jim was excited to come to work and share with my leadership team what was working for Andrea and I just knew that there was opportunity for leading others in the ways of understanding how we're naturally wired, helping employees be in their sweet spot, and to know more about them. What's behind maybe a blank look on their face? Because I know and trust the brilliance of all of our team members. Today, everyone has been involved in leadership training, and CI Design is an amazing company. We've won Best Workplace now 3 years in a row. It's working. Let me tell you now that a meeting such as the one I described in '08 looks profoundly different. We still present opportunities to each other the way I described with notes and drawings, but we just go far enough to know and pause and ask input from the room, reflect on what they're hearing, create a safe space for the introspective people to enter the conversation, and invite those members on the team whose super strength is to be the skeptic in the room and challenge the idea. By the same token, we allow the dreamers to run a while before pointing out each obstacle. We all have that greater awareness of our teammates now, and we're thriving. So here in 2021, with the majority of our team working remotely most of the time, we are thriving. Culture permeates through the Zoom windows, and we really function like a team. People are taking care of each other and collaborating at a very high level, and I'm so proud. With this, I'll bring this in for a close to say, I'm just so looking forward to a lineup of guests that I have in store for us in this Connector podcast to unpack the connections of brand and marketing and emotional intelligence and leadership within our creative industry. Thanks for listening. I'll see you back here soon.